Now, Kashmira, there are lots of women leaders right now, but globally the gap is still wide. I mean, lots of studies have proven this already. Statistics have shown it that men still dominate the boardroom. So I want to ask you this: what does it take to level the playing field and address the gender biases in play?
I think we just have to take a step back and look at it maybe more holistically. Uh, the first that I think companies can do is believe in why diversity makes us smarter, because I think it begins from that belief that we have of how encouraging a more diverse and inclusive environment ensures whether there's more creativity, better influence on decisions, more innovation. And of course, there are many statistics to tell us why having a more diverse and inclusive environment uh, further propels business results. If that commitment is made by the companies, once you believe in it, then the next step is about setting that commitment into action. You can't let the ball drop between the spirit, intent, and the action. And here it talks about a clear commitment that we should have on why and how we will ensure that we have a very diverse and inclusive environment. Here I want to make a specific mention. It's not just about gender, but it's also about diversity of experiences, age, different cultures, all these other elements that can really help to make the workplace thrive. After we have the commitment, the tone at the top has to be clear and consistent. Once we have done that, I think the next step is about ensuring that the workplace has policies and processes in place to ensure that we can implement those commitments. And the last is, of course, to ensure that our employees also, at our workplace, our peers, colleagues, all are sensitized to why diversity is important. There has to be an internal belief before we actually set the ball in action. And specifically when it comes to gender, at least my experience tells me that there are three or four areas that we need to work on. One, I would say, is the lack of adequate role models, which means that has to be some deliberate action to ensure that we can encourage more, gender equal representation at different levels of leadership in the organization. Because sometimes it's just the lack of having adequate role models which sets us away from maybe aspiring to achieve much more than possibly what we do. The second, I would say, is about the lack of confidence. And here I think, we have our kind to also blame. When I say lack of confidence, it's about lack of confidence for pitching yourself for jobs that you feel you might not be technically ready. And this, I think, statistics have shown that men and women, express different levels of readiness when they pitch themselves for higher responsibilities. The third, which I have seen can go a long way, is the presence of allies, sponsors in the system who can act like your sounding board. These need not necessarily be people who, for lack of another word, push you in the system, but at least they act as sounding boards to give you feedback and to provide you with the right experiences at the right time in your career path. Of course, provided you're willing to, and you aspire to plan a particular, career in the organization. Yeah, Ralph.
Mm. Now, my question is about hiring. So, how do you ensure a diverse workplace? do you set a certain number to allot to a particular race or a particular gender for a particular position? So, and let me push that further because the argument of those, especially leaders, would argue that why put those quotas when there are and just set it purely on qualifications, perhaps. Like, may the best or best woman win. Why not stick to that?
So, Ralph, it depends on what lens we see it from. If we see it from the lens of saying that there is a mandate or a quota, I don't think even anyone, whether it's men or women or anybody in the organization, wants to be, at the what you say, for lack of another word, wants to be part of a decision made based on quotas that have been assigned in the system. So it depends what lens we look at it from. Is it equality or is it equity? You mentioned a good point about why can't we just leave it at qualifications. Of course, if you look at just qualifications, you have equal number of women graduating from universities, equal number, many times even taking up higher, qualifications. So it's not always. It's just that sometimes as the level playing field is not available. It could be because of differences that are set right at the entry level when we begin work. For example, you mentioned on hiring. When we hire, are we very clear that our hiring processes are ensuring that there is no bias during the selection? So that's the first question. For example, in Sanofi, we really profess that we have, a diverse panel during hiring to ensure that we can reduce any possibility of an unconscious bias. It's also about whether organizations have trained and sensitized employees on what kind of questions are important when you evaluate during recruitment. Is it about just experience, or is it about the potential for an individual to deliver in that role? So I would say that yes, it can be a half glass full and half empty. When the numbers are very skewed in the system and they don't represent our society, the numbers that exist in our society, it just means that somewhere there is an inherent conscious or unconscious bias which is working, against a level playing field for all employees. And lastly, I don't want to miss the point that when we talk about meritocracy, it doesn't speak. I don't think we intend to say that you just choose the women over the men. That would be a wrong argument to make. And I'm sure no organization wants to do that. Eventually, everyone wants to hire and groom talent for future. The point is, can we have a process which evaluates both all the candidates, irrespective of gender, without a lens put on gender or on any other element that can cause bias, and then say you know let the best person win? And sometimes if you have a big skew in the figures, maybe it just means that if all things are equal, you really need to have a deliberate action to ensure that the woman is given that opportunity. That is
Mhm.
that is when we can talk about really forging a gender equal world.